On the powerful chairman of House Ways and Means Committee, Trey Lamar. Good morning, Trey. How are you, sir? It's good to have you.
Good morning, Paul. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and I think I found everything I needed here. There were a couple of things. I hate to hit you cold with this one, but I was going to ask you this, and if you don't know, please don't. You don't even have to fake it. There was a couple of rulings. One of the rulings was it last week before last, from the federal courts of judges on the redistricting mandate in several of our areas. Do you know anything about that?
Paul, I know that the latest that I believe, and I don't want to be necessarily quoted on this as being fact, but I believe we're looking at doing that next session, unless something changes or has changed in the last several days. I believe the courts have given us the ability to wait until the 25 legislative session and really dig down into the merits or the issues that the court has put before the legislature and try to construct a plan. Obviously, there's a long time between now and January, and so something could change about that. But that's the latest that I'm aware of.
It will affect how many districts or what part of the state?
Well, we don't know exactly how many districts it could affect yet. We know there's some primary districts. There's a House district over in around Houston, that area, and so Houston, Mississippi, and so that's Chickasaw County. And so if depending on how that district may change, it could affect some of the surrounding districts around it, or it would definitely affect some of them, depending on how many we don't know. And then there's some Senate issues with the Senate plan up in DeSoto County, potentially Marshall County, Tate County, and then also in the Hattiesburg area. And so depending on how those lines are drawn, it could affect the Senate districts around those lines. And so we're keeping a very close eye on that.
I got you. All of this centers around BVAP votes, right?
Well, federal election and redistricting laws are so complex, but certainly BVAP is a big part of that. There's a bunch of minutia and elements that go into that. But bottom line is one man, one vote, not based on making sure that minorities are represented proportionally and fairly, and that's what we'll be looking at.
Answered quite nicely, sir. I appreciate it. At least I have more clarity. Speaking of needing clarity, U.S. District Judge Louis Garula rejected a challenge by the Republican National Committee and others to Mississippi's practice of counting mail-in absentee ballots received up to 5 days after the election day. He's a senior status judge, first appointed by I think George W. Bush, and he ruled in a 24-page opinion that the political parties had legal standing to bring the suit. I noticed that our Attorney General, page 2 here, if I can find it, Mary Essa Lee, who is a spokesperson for General Finch's office, told the press that the statement that the Attorney General's office is pleased with less than 100 days until Election Day, the court upheld our absentee ballot laws. And basically what it's saying is that I think we can still count ballots 5 days after the election, but only the ones that have been postmarked prior to the election day, which is, to me, common sense.
Yeah.
Any comment on that?
I haven't had a chance to study that one, Paul. I think it just came out just in the last few days, but I know our elections chairman and their committees are going to be working on that to make sure we're in compliance with all federal law. They're really diligent about that. And at the end of the day, all we want as Republican leadership is to have fair elections and elections that the public can trust is accurate. That's what we want.
As we heard from Kelly, that a lot of the attention in this Neshoba County Fair is going to be people speaking, but everybody's attention's on a national stage right now because it is important. We've heard this for as long as I've been involved in politics, and you too, that this is the most important election of our lifetime. But I don't see how anybody can disagree with it on this coming one up in November. And we're talking about less than 100 days away. One of the sound bites I did not play this morning, I want you to hear this because this is pretty scary, from the woman who wants to be the president of the United States of America.
When elected president, if the United States Congress continues to fail to have the courage to do something about this, I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country. We still have to deal with over 2 million assault weapons that are currently in the streets of America.
Wow. She's not shy about that. Your thoughts?
Well, that's a very dangerous, slippery slope, and extremely dangerous for someone who wants to be president. Just say, well, whatever Congress doesn't do, I think I can do because I've basically been anointed king, and that's just not the way our government was set up to work. So she can say whatever she wants to say, but what I don't want people to do is fear, because we have Haley Barbour. I was listening to a speech as a young lawyer one time, well before I was in politics, and it's the first time I ever heard the statement that said, when he made the quote, it was actually at a judicial investiture of someone I care about a lot, when he made this statement. But he says, "We are a nation of laws and not of men, and thank God for that." And so we have a constitution for a reason, and regardless of what Kamala Harris may say or anybody else may say, she will be subject to that Constitution, and she is not above it. So I'm thankful for that.
The safeguards to that Constitution, though, Trey, happens to be the Supreme Court. And if that goes, if there's a tipping point there, and all of a sudden you've got the same type of Constitution that Venezuela had.
Well, I think you see.
That's something on their radar. They want to change, because this little issue here is not that big of a deal for them anymore, as far as, and then they're talking about the just changing the vote count there, so it could possibly happen.
Well, I mean, I think, look, Paul, it's no coincidence that clip you just played came out in the same week that President Biden held his press conference and stated that he was going to push for term limits on Supreme Court justices, which ironically would have to be by a change of our federal constitution as well. So you're exactly right, and that's those two issues pushed would go hand in hand, and would necessarily give extreme power to a unilateral elected president, and so that's not the country, that's not the government that our founders set up. And so I'm glad to know that there are people all across this country that understand that, and that really would fight to the death to save our country. And I'm thankful for that. So all the more reason to vote Republican this fall. Let's get our team elected and move forward. And I hope people will see that and understand the importance of it.
Yeah. We were talking about the Neshoba County Fair. Of course, Mandy's going to be doing the morning show tomorrow. But when she was on, we were discussing that the GOP, the new leadership in the GOP, Whatley and Ms. Trump and Mike Hurst here on a statewide basis, all of them are doing a lot of things behind the scenes. And there were a couple of different lawsuits that are popping up here and there that they're trying to be proactive on this one. So hopefully you can stem the tide of that. But there's, in some of these states, like the key states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, these Democrats have so much of a control on that one. It's almost impossible. If they want to cheat, they can cheat.
Well, look, let me give some credit to our Republican Party and our leadership. I was proud to see us join the lawsuit challenging Biden's transfer of almost $100 million to Kamala Harris. I don't believe that fits with the intentions of the federal election laws and campaign finance laws, and so I was among several states, but glad to see Mississippi a part of that and standing up to that. Those people gave that money to him, and that's really unprecedented, that level of transfer of funds this late in the game. And so glad to see us fighting back against that.
Trey Lamar, Chairman of House Ways and Means Committee. Any bills, Trey, that became law from your committee that you want to speak to as far as July 1st?
Paul, we had
take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's think about that and come back on the other side of this break. Quick break, back with more. Bill Blackwell's going to join us coming up at 8:05. It is, my friends, a Wednesday. Tomorrow's the big speaking day. We'll also ask Trey about that, what he thinks the number one topic's going to be. from the big guys when they talk tomorrow at the Pavilion at the Neshoba County Fair. Trey Lamar, I'm just sitting here watching the Fox News on a couple of things here, and they just keep throwing it. I mean, they rear back at a fastball and throw it in your face.
Do we have to, Paul? I was really enjoying listening to that song. I wish we could go back.
It's an incredible song.
It was exceptional. We got to go into that to national politics.
They throw it in your face by saying, here's what she just, in her latest deal. She says, I want the Catholic vote because she says, I know what it's like and et cetera, et cetera. We'll go back to what we were talking about. But in having the privilege of serving with the president who is a Catholic in the White House. And I was thinking about all of the abortion issues that they were on, and I don't want to even get started on that one, but they one after the other, they just throw these hardballs at you and expect you to take them. Bills that came out of your committee or you authored July the 1st, any of significance that are now the law of the land?
Well, Paul, the Ways and Means is a really busy committee, as you know, but we had a fairly quiet year this year. There are several bills out there that minor, important to those that they affect, but probably not on a large scale. I spent the vast majority of the session working kind of behind the scenes and studying up, preparing for future conversations about tax reform. And I have really one goal with that, and that is to make Mississippi's tax code the most fair and competitive tax code in the entire United States of America. And there's nothing short of that we'll do as long as I'm there. I'll keep pushing for that. There's no reason we can't. We're blessed with a great economy, probably the best in the history of our state. We've got tremendous revenues that are big surpluses that outsurpass what we're spending, and we're spending more than we've ever spent. We've got record amounts committed to K-12 education, corrections, mental health. We're fixing big issues there. We still got some ways to go, but we've got all this money, Paul. We've made strides in transportation, and we still need to make more strides there. I work with the transportation chairman in the House daily about discussing ways that we can increase our funding to transportation that does not continue to gut our general fund. For those that don't know, transportation is a special fund agency. It's not a general fund agency. In the last 3+ years, we've been propping up that agency out of our general fund, and that gets in the way of of tax relief we can give to the hardworking people of Mississippi. So I have spent a lot of time, everything from how our income tax situation to our fuel tax situation to our grocery tax situation to how our cities and counties are funded. And we're looking at global, comprehensive, really transformational tax reform that will set the state of Mississippi up to be the most competitive and fair tax code in the entire United States of America. And that's what we're working on. I've been blessed and honored to serve as the co-chairman of the Special Tax Committee this fall with Chairman Scott Bounds. And we've had one organizational meeting and look forward to more meetings this fall. But that's where my focus is. In addition to that, obviously, Ways and Means controls a lot of the one-time spending that we have and special projects across the state. And we made a lot of strides in helping communities, cities, and counties, schools all over the state at the end of the session. So those are the areas that I spent the vast majority of my time on this past session.
Yeah, that's a lot of moving parts. And one of them is going to be the replacement of the fuel tax as far as EVs are concerned. Yeah. How do you make up for that gap? So any reality about you think you'll have that done this session, or you think it's going to take longer?
It's our goal. I think from a House leadership standpoint, and I will say you'll probably hear Speaker Jason White speak on this tomorrow in the Neshoba County Fair. I plan to be in attendance to watch that. But we're looking at, again, major comprehensive tax reform and school choice. How do we provide more opportunity for more children to become better educated in the state of Mississippi? Those are really our two main focuses as we go forward.
And I'm sure you know a heck of a lot more than me. But when I had the lieutenant governor on the other day, I don't think he's any closer to acquiescing to a personal income tax a reduction again as far as what the House wants. You think you're any closer to that?
Well, I'm going to ask the Lieutenant. I'm going to ask the Lieutenant Governor to think outside the box of a little bit and listen. You know, the demands of the people, not just the bureaucrats that run the agencies or the schools around here. We've taken care of schools. We're doing tremendous things in both K-12 and IHL, and can continue to do that. And provide, as I said, the most competitive and fair tax code in this country. That's our focus. And I'm asking the Lieutenant Governor and his Senate leadership, Chairman Hobson, Chairman Harkins, to get on board with us and help us lead in that effort. And so we can all have a big win for the state of Mississippi.